Welcome back to the program. The state of Colorado has been a reliably red state for decades. The 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and then right around the beginning of the 2000s or so. That's when the state became infested, let me use that word correctly, infested with communists from California. And from that, they brought their disgusting, depraved politics into this once beautiful red state and turned it into the shithole that it now is. And President Trump today has taken notice of that. So President Trump today gave the entire state of Colorado, and in particular Colorado Springs, a giant middle finger. Now, why did he move Space Force out of Colorado Springs? Well, quite simply, because he is punishing this state for having mail-in ballots, 100% mail-in ballots, for not believing in the rule of law, for having a multiple-tier justice system, for punishing a Gold Star mother whose only crime was to expose Democrat voter fraud. And so guess what, Colorado? You reap what you sow. And now Space Force has been moved to Huntsville, Alabama, or as President Trump is now calling it, Rocket City. Now, Huntsville made a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. You already have a huge military presence in Huntsville, Alabama. You have other Space Command locations there. You have other military installations there. And you have contractors there as well. So when they did the vote, they found out that Huntsville won every round that they gave them, including, by the way, a former Obama official also said for national security reasons, it makes sense to move Space Force to Huntsville, Alabama. But it certainly was a punishment for what they have done to Tina Peters and what they continue to do to the entire state of Colorado. Harsh measures indeed. President Trump announces Space Command is moving from Colorado Springs to Huntsville, Alabama. Last month, President Donald Trump took to Truth Social and announced that there's going to be, quote, harsh measures in response to the persecution of former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters, who sadly, disgustingly, horrifically is serving a 9-year sentence on bullshit, made-up charges by tyrants and Colorado judges and politicians. And what was her crime? Her crime was for taking forensic evidence of the voting systems in Mesa County, Colorado, and proving without a shadow of a doubt voter fraud. And for that, you had the disgusting Secretary of State, you had the even more disgusting governor, and you had even more disgusting judges all line up against this Gold Star mom who is rotting away in a jail cell because of the assholes in Colorado. So, President Trump and the Department of Justice are still working to enjoin that case. He can't flat out pardon her because they did this on purpose. They made sure that it was a state prosecution and not a federal one, knowing that if President Trump did come back into office, the first thing that he would do would be to let this poor woman out of jail. But no, the Colorado scumbags decided to do state charges, which again, he doesn't have jurisdiction to pardon her. So the only thing they can do at this point, which is what they are doing, is they are enjoining the case from the federal government level and the Department of Justice. They are examining the entire case to see whether it was litigated under fair and impartial reasons. I believe she will be out of jail. And I think it will happen probably in the next couple of months because they're not going to just let her rot forever in a jail cell. So that was part of it. But the other part, well, quite frankly, because they have taken away the ability to have free and fair elections in the entire state of Colorado, because the idiots in Colorado from California came in and they did mail-in voting without IDs, without signatures, without affidavits, without anything, and ballot harvesting and everything else. And that is why a Republican cannot win in the state of Colorado anymore, because of the mail-in voting bullshit that they have and have passed. And here it is, coming from the horse's mouth himself.
Look, I have so many friends in Colorado. Anytime you have mail-in voting, you have corrupt elections. Very simple. It's very simple. Even Jimmy Carter said it with his commission. They set up a commission with him and Scoop Jackson and some people, highly regarded people. And they said the one thing, the finding was, if you have mail-in voting, you will have corrupt elections. Well, your radical left governor decided that he was going to have all mail-in voting in Colorado. Once you have all mail-in voting, and for whatever reason, the Democrats cheat. And they cheat like, they're not stupid. That's the only thing. They're no good on policy. They're no good on management. They're no good at government. But they're great at cheating. And they stick together, too. I give them credit for sticking together.
He said it 100%. And that is the reason that 1,800 plus jobs and over $1 billion in revenue, bye-bye Colorado communists, it's going to red state patriots in Huntsville, Alabama. And that money is going to be flowing like crazy, and there's going to be tons of jobs. And actually, it's going to be more than 1,800 new jobs, because there's probably another 3,600 to 4,000 additional jobs as they're building more things and infrastructure and who knows what else that they're doing. So now they're going to have not just Space Force, they're going to build the Golden Dome is going to be built in Huntsville for the rest of the country, and apparently even for Canada, which I don't know if they deserve it or not because they're communists as well. But bottom line is they screwed up. And yes, this is political retribution and retaliation, and thank God it is. Thank God President Trump has the testicular fortitude to stick it to Colorado for doing what they have done all of these years, and especially what they have done to Tina Peters, which is sickening for what they have done. So, and by the way, this was supposed to be, as President Trump says in another video, this was 7 years in the making. It was always supposed to be in Huntsville. But of course, the Otto Penn administration wanted to pay back Colorado politicians and Democrats, so they got Space Force when it was never supposed to be in Colorado Springs. It was always supposed to be in Huntsville. So two can play the political game. But now it's going to be permanent. You're not going to be able to move it anywhere from now. And again, many of the generals, many of the people that even worked in the Otto Penn administration have all said the same thing, that it belongs in Huntsville because Huntsville has the best technology, the best infrastructure, and the best military installations, as well as contractors that are all there right now. And they're going to build even more. And it's going to be known, just as he said, as Rocket City. And Colorado is going to suffer financially from this because they're woke, because they're broke, and because they're a bunch of commie bastards. Okay, so let's talk about Epstein as it's once again in the news. James Comer and the Oversight Committee has released 33,395 documents, 295 pages of Epstein-related documents and records. Now, everyone knows that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Okay, I was selling hats that said Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself back then. All right, I think everybody knows it. Michael Baden, the famous forensic examiner, he flat out said, you don't have broken hyoid bones from hanging yourself, okay? That's only from being strangled. So again, he didn't have the capacity to even strangle himself. He didn't have the capacity to even do anything with bed sheets. None of it. He was murdered. Point blank. Okay? Now, with all of these documents that have just been released, it's going to take quite some time to go through a lot of these documents. Now, granted, some of them we might have already have known a lot of the same information. We certainly don't want another situation where they're holding binders up of the same old garbage, right? So we'll keep an eye out and we'll see what happens in the next few days as this information flows through social media and elsewhere. And if we see anything that is a red flag or something that needs to be brought to people's attention, we certainly will do that. Well, there's one thing already that is being brought to attention. And what is that? Well, pretty simple. The Bureau of Prisons Risk Management Assessment literally said that Jeffrey Epstein was not suicidal 9 days before he was found dead in his cell. So let's discuss this one. So again, 33,000 plus pages of Epstein-related documents have been made public. Been reporting on the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform's review of the information and prosecutions of Jeffrey Epstein and, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell, the right-hand woman there. To this end, the committee has subpoenaed documents from the Department of Justice and from Treasury and will interview the likes of Ghislaine Maxwell again, Bill and Hillary Clinton, and former U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, among many others. And so, let's see here. To cap a busy first day back at work for Congress, the committee also posted online the materials and have received so far from the Department of Justice and the House Oversight Committee press release today. The Oversight and Government Reform released 33,295 pages of Epstein-related records that were provided by the United States Department of Justice. On August 5th, Chairman Comer issued a subpoena for records related to Mr. Jeffrey Epstein, and the Department of Justice has indicated that it will continue to produce those records while ensuring the redaction of victims' identities and any child sexual abuse material. Needless to say, a very large group of people are going through these details and documents. And what is immediately apparent, according to posts right now out there, was the fact that 9 days before his suspicious death, Epstein did not appear to be an immediate threat to himself or others, according to the Bureau of Prisons Suicide Risk Assessment contained in the Oversight Committee's Epstein file releases. So this is going to continue. There's going to be more and more documents that are going to be coming out about this. But again, his own brother has said he was not suicidal. Ghislaine Maxwell has said he was not suicidal. She testified to, I can't think of his name offhand, but the guy at the Department of Justice that she was talking to for a few days in Florida, she said he was not suicidal. And again, forensic examiners have said the same thing, that he did not kill himself based on the condition of the body, based on the fact that the hyoid bone was broken in so many points. It could only be broken in that way if you were strangled, not if you were hanging yourself. It's a whole different way that it would have broke. So again, we're learning more and more. Are we going to get to the bottom of it? Are we going to ever find out who killed him? I don't know. Probably not. Probably not, unfortunately. But we definitely need to have closure and, restitution, if you will, for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I think that, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If she names, which she said she was planning on doing at some point, but if she names the people involved, it could open up a whole nother ball game of indictments, prosecutions, and things like that. Now, we've heard that she's going to have a book out, right? She's trying to write a book. And she says that in that book, she's going to name everybody and everything else. I don't know. I don't know if she's going to do it or not. Who knows? I'll say it right now. Ghislaine Maxwell didn't kill herself. Because if she knows all the secrets, then she's going to be a marked woman. And whether she's at a plush country club now as opposed to a hardened jail, they can still get to her. Okay? They got to Virginia Giffrey Roberts, did they not? Of course they did. She even said that if something happens to me, I'm not suicidal and I didn't do anything to myself, I didn't harm myself, that means that they got to me. Okay? And there are some major, major power players out there that do not want their lives, their families, and their careers ruined because of the things that they did. Do they deserve to be prosecuted? Absolutely. Do they deserve to be hung up by their you-know-whats? Absolutely they do. They need to be castrated for the things that they've done. Okay? But there's a lot of influences out there. There's a lot of bad people out there. There's a lot of people with money out there. And there's a lot of people that could do a lot of harm to a lot of people that do a lot of digging. So we'll see what happens. These documents, like I said, they're out now. So they're going to continue to come out even more. And we'll keep an eye on everything. And if something really catches the eye that we all need to know about, I will certainly bring that up. Okay, for this last segment, I wasn't even really going to cover this, to be honest. My thoughts and prayers were with Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor, took down the mob almost single-handedly. I mean, nobody could do what Rudy Giuliani did, how he cleaned up New York. He got rid of the strip clubs, he got rid of the graffiti, he got rid of the crime, only to have it all come back with Democrats running the city for many, many decades, right? But he is America's mayor, and he was in a horrible accident. I'm happy to say today that he was discharged from the hospital. We'll get into that here in a minute, but I wasn't really going to cover the story, but in doing some more research, there's a lot of weird things in this story now that raise more questions, shall we say, than answers. And here is what they are. First, let's talk about the main story, which is that the police have now identified the driver who hit Rudy Giuliani and the other person driving and seriously injured him. So let's get into this part right here. The person responsible for seriously injuring former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani in the reported car accident over the weekend has been revealed. The 81-year-old Giuliani was severely injured in this car accident last weekend in New Hampshire after assisting a domestic violence victim. Let me stop there and let me add another word. Allegedly a domestic violence victim. I'll explain in a little bit. Rudy suffered a broken thoracic vertebrae, lacerations, and multiple contusions. Thomas Goodman of Michigan was driving a Ford Bronco with Giuliani as the passenger. He was also injured in the accident. Now, New Hampshire State Police have identified 19-year-old Lauren Kemp of Concord, New Hampshire, as the person responsible for hitting Giuliani in the crash. She was driving a Honda HR-V when she slammed into the vehicle from behind, carrying Giuliani. This line right here, I don't like because I don't agree with it. But I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to tell you why I don't agree with it. There is no indication that this was a targeted attack against Giuliani, and so far no charges have been filed. I'll explain. Michael Ragusa, head of Giuliani Security, disclosed more details about the car accident in a statement posted to X on Sunday. On the evening of August 30th, 2025, in New Hampshire, Mayor Giuliani was involved in a motor vehicle accident Prior to the incident, he was flagged down by a woman who was claiming that she indeed was a victim of a domestic violence incident. So, of course, Mayor Giuliani is a patriot. He loves people. He's going to help anytime he can. He immediately went right into, hero mode, and he went and he helped this woman, and he stayed with this woman until the police came, okay? So he rendered assistance. He called 911 himself. He remained on the scene until the responding officers arrived to ensure her safety. Following this, while traveling on the highway, Mayor Giuliani's vehicle was struck from behind. So in other words, this lady flags him down. He goes and helps this lady. He stays with the lady, and the police come. The police then want pictures of him and all this other stuff. And then he leaves, and he goes into his assistant's vehicle, which was like a truck or whatever, and they're leaving. And then they get hit from behind, okay? So this is the original story, all right? Following this, while traveling on the highway, Mayor Giuliani's vehicle struck from behind at a high rate of speed. He was transported to a nearby trauma center where he was diagnosed with a fractured thoracic vertebrae, multiple lacerations and contusions, as well as injuries to his left arm and his lower leg. Goodman, Kemp, the one that hit them, and Giuliani were all, treated at a local hospital. Giuliani is currently in the trauma center. Actually, he's not. He's out now. His medical provider and business partner, Dr. Maria Ryan, shared this following update. Dear friends, my apologies for the delay in responding. I wanted to make sure that I personally communicated with the Giuliani family. The mayor was involved in a motor vehicle accident late Saturday evening. He was flagged down by a woman who claimed she was being abused by a boyfriend. He then called the police, and he waited, as a good Samaritan would, until they arrived. Of course, as soon as they got there and they saw that Rudy Giuliani was there, then, of course, they immediately wanted pictures with him and all this other stuff. But in a weird twist of circumstances, the woman was arrested and was found to be the aggressor, and the boyfriend was found to be bloodied and in rough shape and was taken to a nearby hospital. After finishing up, he and his staff members who were driving were hit, quote, like a rocket from behind, severely impacting the right rear side. The mayor sustained several injuries, with the most concerning being a fracture of his spine, thoracic area levels. He's in the trauma center on bed rest. Tomorrow he will be fitted with a brace and will be working with a physical therapist. He is aware that everyone is reaching out. He sincerely appreciates all of your well wishes. He may be discharged within a few days. Now, he was discharged today. Now, why am I skeptical? Well, number one, I'm always going to be skeptical when certain things don't line up. I'm skeptical because the person who flagged him down was supposedly the victim. But it turns out that she was not the victim. She was the aggressor. She gets arrested, okay? And the boyfriend is in the hospital, beat up and bloody. Now, I don't know if she did it or if there's another guy involved and he beat her up and then they lied and said that she was the victim. I don't know. But my question is this. After Giuliani helps this woman and stays with her, then leaves, the woman eventually, again, the truth comes out that she's the aggressor, right? Is it possible that she made a phone call to a friend and said, hey, Rudy Giuliani just tried to help me, but now I've been arrested because they found out the truth about how I beat up my boyfriend. You think maybe you're in the area? This is what the car looks like. This is what the truck looks like. Why don't you ram into it? Now, that might seem absolutely asinine. It might seem conspiratorial in nature. Fine, maybe it is. But it's also very strange that as soon as she's arrested, found out to be the one that's not the victim, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, at a high speed, boom, Rudy Giuliani gets rammed from behind in a car with a 19-year-old. Now, I don't know how old the girl was that flagged him down. I would assume it was probably a young girl as well. I don't know. Seems a little strange. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going conspiratorial and saying that this was a hit and run on purpose against him. But I'm also saying that it might have been. Okay? We don't know yet why they were immediately coming out to say that this was nothing of a retaliation or a targeted attack. This is America's mayor, after all. This is the Rudy Giuliani here, okay? So, again, it seems a little weird. What if this was some leftist radical? You know, there's some of those. There's a lot of those in New Hampshire. What if it was some leftist radical that now all of a sudden, you know, cover is blown and they're pissed, and so they want to do a retaliation. They tell their girlfriend, hey, this is the car. This is what it looks like. Go ahead and ram it. I don't know. Maybe it sounds crazy. But you know what? Crazier things have happened.